God. I know how to use this. Welcome to Into the Dead 2, as the proving grounds again turns into a zombie wasteland. One that you can't turn back from, as you must endlessly run to your goal. So, first thing. This was originally a mobile game ported to the Switch. And it is important to note that said mobile game was littered with microtransactions. Now, when it comes down to it, there are usually two kinds of ports when it comes to a mobile game coming over to other systems, consoles and such. There's the lazy way, aka everything's intact, loaded with microtransactions, ads, and all that kind of shit. And, with it on top of it, a price tag that usually the mobile version is usually cheaper or just free because they get tons of money through the money transactions. But this time they have the audacity to usually charge a more absurd price tag. And then you get something more like this. Well, said things were all removed and readjusted to work as its own individual game. Now, Into the Dead 2 is a sequel to, again, a mobile game. As far as I know, said mobile game never had a console release or anything, and I don't know anything about it. So, I have not played the mobile version, so this is strictly from the Switch, but I did a wee little bits of research on it. So, moving on. There is one bit of DLC that's apparently exclusive to the mobile version that is not in this. Aside from that, all the DLC side stories and that are on the physical game. Oddly enough, the digital version of the game, you have to buy the Night of the Living Dead and Ghostbusters DLC separately. Which is very odd considering the price point is actually exactly the same for the download in the physical version of the game, which is odd. I imagine, because of the high price tag for the physical version, they figured they'd throw in the 2 additional DLCs to make it more enticing, I imagine. But that don't know those side stuff. Not really anything amazing, honestly. Actually, I kind of think the Ghostbusters is the weakest link in this entire thing, but that's a whole different thing we'll be talking about. So let's get into this. So story-wise, very simple premise. You're out there looking for your sister and daughter as the zombie apocalypse began as you're truck driving, and you get in an accident, and thus have to go on foot. This game takes a mix of survival, very Walking Dead, Night of the Living Dead kind of vibe, and endless wonder. Mash it all together. So you have 3 modes: story, side, and arcade. Story mode, of course, is the main attraction for us lore buffs, and as I said, the story is pretty simple. You're just trying to get to your sister and daughter, and the story takes quite a while to start get rolling, because each stage you'll get a moment to talk to said characters over radio, and it's like, you doing alright, you doing alright, doing it, and slowly things start beginning to happen after about maybe 10 to 20 stages of that. It takes a while for it to start picking up with that. But the gameplay is very inspired from Endless Wonders. In story mode, it's not endless. You have a set goal of distance every stage, and you have to survive that long until you meet that distance. Now, you can have 2 types of guns, and you are limited. You can't just, equip shotguns in both hands. There's only certain guns that can be in each hand, but you get to carry 2 weapons with you at a time, and you can unlock a companion. And as you progress through the story, you can change your different type of guns you wield, and your type of companion who assists you. So, personally, I recommend having a ground control and a quick shooting gun. Quick shooting for something you can quickly change over and pow a few times, or use it to focus on single targets, and a ground control, like a crowd control gun, because sometimes they get bunched up, and that's usually when you'll die with a single shotgun versus like a shotgun explosion-y type gun. But anyway, those are just my subjections there. But basically, you have a distance to meet, and you do get a few different little attractions. And depending on whether you're playing through the side stories or the story mode, there are a few of these quote-unquote light hallway mode where you walk slower versus running in a straight line. You can't bob and weave as you would normally do in 99% of the game. So you have to basically kill everything oncoming because you can't actually dodge it. There was the on rails mode, which there's a few times you'll get on like a taunt, a jeep taunt and that, and kind of just boom, mold through a whole bunch of shit for about half the stage, and then dismount and one in the endless runner style. And there's the arcade mode's option of just being endless, but we'll get into that. Now, you also have throwable grenades that you can own and bring in to help with crowd control as well, because again, they get bunched up as you get later in the game. You'll meet different environments. A lot of the environments are usually big, open, wide, and give you a lot of space to one side to side, so you can usually bob and weave a lot easier, but there will be times where it's more claustrophobic, pathways, tunnels, and stuff where it's not as easy, and you will have to use stunning or crowd control to get through much easier. On top of that, in all scenarios except for I believe the Ghostbusters was the only scenario that didn't have a mode of defense, you normally have a knife, and certain companions also have chances of saving you as well, so you can get up to usually 2 chances to possibly survive with the right companion. In the Night of the Living Dead, actually, though, you get 3, a companion, a knife, and a gun knife, so you actually get 3 in that one. But it gives you a free survive from being grabbed, so they're useful because sometimes the zombies do kind of screw you. Sometimes they'll put in unfair spots here and there. They do seem to have a very random generation through the stages. So sometimes you might go through a part where there's a whole bunch and they kind of in your setup might not be easy to get through, and other times like, oh, there's barely anything here. So it is not consistent as far as I can tell. So depending on your gear, you could get screwed over more often or less often, depending on what you bring into the stage. So it is nice to have at least that one knife to spare you from a accidental, if that happens. But if you die, you just restart the stage. The stage is all very short. This is I would say this is the kind of game that you definitely would just play like on a car trip, waiting for something like that. It's very easy to see why this was a popular mobile game, because it's definitely something to pull out, play a little while, and then put away. And being on the Switch makes sense in that, because, you know, it is a handheld as well, and you can pull it out, play it some, and then put it away. So, in that sense, it's a fantastic game. Also, I mean, it fulfills the need of killing some time. Very simplistic, easy to pull out, complete a stage or 2, and put away because they are not very long. Versus being in the middle, it's like, wait, Doc, I'm in the middle of a Dark Souls boss here. We masters on the Switch, you know. Yeah, something like that. Now, the companions. Your first companion is a dog. You actually get automatically through the story, but you can unlock different types of dogs, and later on different types of animals, and they will have different things from attacking zombies. Generally, they all can attack zombies, but they'll have additions like finding ammo, distracting zombies. Like, there's a bear you can unlock. It does like a giant wall that can basically stun all the zombies for like 6 seconds in place, making bobbing and weaving for a little while much easier. There's also a wolf companion that I haven't unlocked yet that apparently has calls a pack of wolves to attack zombies. Sounds interesting in that, but yeah, very, very interesting in that. Definitely can say I like the ideas they have in this, but at the end of the day, it is just kind of a throwaway, kill some time game. Now, the side stories, as far as I could tell, were all DLC originally for the original release on mobile. I'm not 100% sure. There was not a lot of information or accurate information I could find about the mobile version. But when looking into it, there was a storyline that was not even on Switch's digital store. So it has apparently never been brought over to the Switch. The characters in it aren't related to the story of the game at all, so not really a big loss. I think it might be a tie-in. It kind of looked kind of like the Walking Dead graphically from the characters in it, but wasn't titled that. But anyway, the first 3 side stories are kind of things happening from other people's perspectives and that. Untamed was actually an interesting one, because that's actually with the main character, and that's a side story with him. But the other 2 are side stories happening during the main story. Now, Night of the Living Dead, I have never watched Night of the Living Dead, so I don't know anything about the characters, but I think it's more of a cameo fest than much of a real campaign, and just about everyone dies in it. It's pretty meh. And the Ghostbusters, I think it's probably the worst thing in this package, which is kind of crazy considering you have to basically do everything else to unlock it. I feel like it, how should I say, suffers from being more flashy than accurate to the gameplay style of how it's a one-and-gun endless shooter thing with limited ammo as you progress through the stage. The problem with the Ghostbusters is, while you have a lot of different options with guns in the main storyline and a few side options in the side stories and that, you're stuck with the Ghostbusters different guns they have for this storyline. And a lot of times when there's a giant cluster of ghosts, most of them can't shoot fast enough. So in general, one of them will grab you and kill you. The Ghostbuster scenario also, there's no backup knife thing, so it beefs up the difficulty a bit because of that, and it's more annoying in my opinion because there's a lot of clustered ghosts, and I didn't feel like the guns were very good at dealing with clustered ghosts very much, aside from the one that acted like a shotgun and only got 4 shots and had a slow reload. And it just kind of, I died the most in the Ghostbusters. I honestly don't feel like it was designed very well with how the game is. And then, like, one of the big there's a big explosion thing you can do with one of the guns when you pick up an ammo thing. It will fucking hurt shitloads of ghosts, and it will also leave you completely blind for a few seconds as it devours about like 80% of the screen, and anything that's outside its reach while the explosion's happening gets a free blind grab on you if you're not careful. I've had that happen twice, so I try to stay very away from it if I'm not in a claustrophobic area of a stage of that. And the one stage where you can use Slimer also kind of covers brief parts of the screen at the end of his attack, leaving you possibly distracted and maybe making it hard to see some of the green ghosts that, honestly, I feel like the design of the Ghostbusters DLC is just not really good, honestly. And considering if you buy the digital version, you have to buy it by itself, it's just kind of like disappointing. Voice acting, I don't think they definitely didn't get all the voice actors. I'm pretty sure none of the voice actors are the accurate voice actors. And the storyline for it is feeling like it's kind of just knock off Ghostbusters 1, Brother One's Revenge. So it's just kind of blah. Actually, out of the side stories, I really liked it. I liked the first 3 in general, but Untamed, I kind of felt like was really different and interesting considering the situation, as it's the main character finding a tiger, a circus tiger that was abandoned. So that actually was probably the most different and interesting of the overall side stuff. Then arcade mode. Now arcade mode is true one and gun. Well, no, it's true endless mode. Basically, they're challenge modes. You unlock each one as you go through them, and basically what you have to do is you have challenges which can award you things. The gold is basically what you need to upgrade and unlock more stuff, which was the microtransactions that was in the mobile version. They're all on through either arcade mode, completing stages, or there's actually a companion that actually can find you some. Probably very little, I imagine. But so your primary ways of getting large boosts is completing stages and doing the arcade mode. So now in the arcade mode, it is true endless mode. You could go in theory forever until the game may have eventually some kind of kill screen. I mean, I imagine at some point it might kill screen itself. There's only so long data could keep going properly, but it's supposed to be endless, and until you die, it doesn't end, unless there is some achievable kill screen arcade style. But you'll get a bunch of challenges like get this many kills and stuff, and you'll be awarded the prizes, and you can keep doing that. That's a good way to get a lot of gold to do upgrades or buy new stuff. But it is a very side thing. So, and one of the good things too is this being such a simple game, you can use either Joy-Con just to play the entirety of the game. You don't need both Joy-Cons. So you can pick your preference and you'll be able to use your companion abilities, reload, swap weapons, fire, use grenades, and pause. Other than that, you cannot edit the controls. You can't swap what buttons do what, which at this point in time, as I'm sure you and me and many others have pointed out, it should not be how games are at this point. We should be at a point where every game allows you to be able to customize what buttons do what. But I'm pretty adapting to controls, so it's not as big of a thing for me. But for some people, it can be a much bigger deal breaker, especially with any particular hand problems or anything, you know. It's just a nice option in case somebody just prefers using a different button for something. So like, it kind of reminds me of that like one RPG on the Wii where it advertised you could play the whole game on like a nunchuck. But in general, this is just pretty much a pick up, kill some time, and put away type game. Graphically in that, it's basic. Like, it's definitely has some jank to it. Like, it helps with the mood some. Like, honestly, it has a bit of a campy, janky, Dreamcasty kind of thing going to it, in my opinion. So it's not necessarily negative. After all, a much better functional game is, of course, more important than, you know, something like Fallout 76. Oh, good lord, why? And that it is a functional game. I had not had a lot of problems. Just a wee little bit of jank, but overall, it's a functional game. I didn't really have a whole lot of problems with it. It's just a pretty sloggy game if you're going to play it at home and like play an hour or two of it, because it does get very repetitive. Again, it's the kind of game you're just going to pull out, play for a few minutes, get a stage or two done, and then put away. If you use your Switch in portable mode, I can recommend this if you want something quick zombie-wise. But if you're looking for a deep story, very meaningful combat, or like crazy survival horror or something, like you're barking up the wrong tree, because this isn't that. This isn't that cheap. This is a very arcadey, quick experience thing. But it's not terrible, honestly. I do give them lots of bonus points for getting away the microtransactions and making a full release of that. But the price is where it can get iffy. Like, this isn't a really long game. I mean, there's a lot of slogs going through it if you're just sitting there playing it all at one time or two times of that, instead of like doing one or two stages over the span of months. like, it's a very short game in the day. Like, you're gonna likely do it in several hours unless you die a whole lot. Not good at the dodging. Then maybe it might be a bit longer, but like in general, you're probably at max gonna be like around 5 hours. If you do all the story and everything. That's probably about the most time you're gonna get, unless you're really, really bad at the dodging, or you're just stuck on Ghostbusters. Because good lord, oof, I don't know why that was so awful. Honestly, I really think it was the worst out of all of it, which is actually kind of a shame because it's also the only one with an actual boss fight. Not even the final stage of the story mode has a boss fight at all, which is really kind of a bit of a shame because a boss fight could have actually gave a bit of differencing interest, but Ghostbusters is the only one that actually has a actual boss, which again is just a bit of a shame because that's about the only good thing I have to really say about Ghostbusters DLC, honestly. Ugh. But that brings us to the price. As I said, the digital version you have to buy Night of the Living Dead and Ghostbusters separately, which that is just all way bullshit considering the brand new price. They're the same, and of course I'm gonna recommend getting this cheaper. So you're better off getting the physical version because you get more content, and it's all on the cartridge, no update or anything. But it goes for $34.99 on both platforms. And again, we illustrate 2 of the DLCs have to be bought separately as a download, which is some ultimately stupid shit. So, what would I give the value of this game? Realistically, and we've talked about this before, realistically, you shouldn't ever expect a physical game to be below $19.99 as a, brand new came out game. Because, the developer has to make something, right? Like, if you go below that, you're really getting in the territory of not really making anything. I mean, as much as, the plastic and discs and things are cheap, Switch cartridges aren't, sadly, but discs and then you could say it's still, but it still costs. So, they still have to recoup something. So, I personally do have to agree, like, realistically, looking at a brand new title that just came out, it's pretty unreasonable to expect it to be below $19.99. But I definitely don't agree that this is a $34.99 title. I get they're likely trying to, quote-unquote, recoup money because they took the microtransactions out, likely. And then there's, of course, licensing for the 2 DLCs. I mean, the Night of the Living Dead, it was okay. It didn't really go anywhere. And like I said, I never watched the movie, so I don't really know if the characters are from the movie or not. I think some of them were. I think it was just mainly a cameo hellhole. And it didn't really lead to much. But I would say, in a used market sense at least, or clearance or such, I wouldn't really recommend paying more than $10. So that's probably the highest I would go. I would try to aim a little lower, maybe more closer to the $5 range. As much as it's not a horrible game, it's very derivative, very repetitive, and it's definitely best on short bursts of usually killing time. But, if you're going to sit there for multiple hours, there's way better and more interesting and meaningful games you could definitely be playing with your time versus this. But if you want to kill some time, like Dark Souls Remastered, great game. Dark Souls is, I do have my own criticism about the remastered version, but hey, I can see the appeal wanting to play Dark Souls on the go, but also realistically, it's not necessarily a great game to pull out for 5 minutes and then need to immediately put away without putting in sleep mode and risking the battery to die and all that kind of crap. This is perfect for that kind of stuff, but those are my 2 cents on Into the Dead. Yeah, it's kind of a forgivable game at the end of the day. Like I said, it's best to waste time with. But those are my thoughts. If you like you learned anything interesting, feel free to leave a comment down below. And if you feel like you learned anything at all, feel free to leave a like. And if you feel like you learned nothing at all, Feel free to leave a dislike. You're free. Until next time, be careful, though, on the zombie battlefield of the Proving Grounds. Oh. Only one thing to do at this point. Clearly the world is over.